Just want to make sure the cam is working and everything. It says we're live, but
Can we log in?
yeah, if you go to my the tweet that I just sent out, it should have the link.
I was thinking about you. I was like, I wonder if she got lost.
No. I shut down and I left and it was just traffic.
Yeah, the traffic is ridiculous.
So what do you want me to do, Joe? You never anything special?
You guys enjoy the show?
Make sure everybody likes it.
Yeah, I think everyone did. I was asking how to do it because I walked in. You showed up like right at the door, so
I need to log in. My network's not working. You could try to go to Joel's Twitter account and link onto. I'm so sorry I called. I know I've been trying to. Yeah, that's why I need to log in with the CFISD account.
What is your name, Joe? It's your handle?
We do BYOT, right?
I don't know.
You can just use your Novell line.
Watching a live stream.
It's not even doing it.
Yeah, mine wasn't either.
Nada.
Está dando vueltitas.
The network's so bad, that's why
So isn't other Austin?
Yeah. You should go introduce yourself. Maybe you're have you met her
Yeah, actually, Austin introduced me to the Austin and go to her office.
Alright, I'm in. I just used the BYOC. I just need to go to Twitter now.
See, like I'm looking at Twitter. But 1 minute, so it's
There we go. Okay, so it's this one right now. The plus Google.
yeah, just try it and see if when you get there, it should be like a play button. Does not show anything else for that. Yeah, like when you're on the desktop site, it shows like a little play button.
as soon as they say
But it shows that you're. I mean, like there's something there. So.
Yeah. I mean,
you have 2,300 followers.
yeah.
What?
You have 2,300 followers.
You know, we'll get comments if it's not working.
Yeah.
It's like that part showing up. So
All right, Natasha. So at the end, they take a group picture when I see it Joel in that picture. So I'm here.
You didn't even, what are you even talking?
I know. I it's strong face. So look, it's on. And you click that. So it already took a picture. You just click right here.
His brother is like,
Yeah, that's all we need.
yeah.
The group usually stands up here. They're going to stand with Natasha Barrett and I'll take a few pictures before I leave. So if you want to check
I have it right now. I just want to keep that. Oh my goodness.
auto, so I guess it doesn't matter. I guess you don't need it. I mean, there's no flight.
I tried to cover one glass, but the glass for the year. My dad called. He's like, "Are you going?" Like, "No, I'm just gonna send it." It was a police board. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm excited to have it.
What is that?
I'm getting the best picture. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Hello. I'll take a picture right now.
Congratulations. Everybody here shows up and
Nobody saw that coming. I really like the intuition. I was very
I'll take a picture of you guys.
Brian, why do you hate photos? You're so cute. You're hot.
your voice has to run. Still pretty still. But show you. Everybody. Not in your book though, so sit back here.
Is it my eyes or is it the focus?
You just have to hold it down halfway. All right, if everyone could come on in and take your seats, we'll get started. Thank you for being here. The January High School Press Conference is our first press conference of the year. I know it seems a little silly that I'm using the mic when you're all right here, but it is primarily for the folks on the webcam so they can hear all the words. So when I do go around later and you guys are asking questions, I will hold up the mic so you can ask a question in the mic and be sure to say your name and the school that you're from. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Cypress Falls, for hosting. Becky Denton, the principal, is just amazing and helped get this room set up with her A team. So thank you so much. Katie Coronado, the journalism advisor, and her whole team got the snacks and everything together, and we're at the front greeting everyone. So thank you guys so much. We have a ton of cupcakes, and they're all Cypress Falls colors back there. So be sure to grab 2 or 3 because there's a ton of them. So before we get started, I'm going to have Becky just briefly introduce herself and talk about her school.
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Becky Denton, and so I'm just delighted that you all are here. Want to thank Joel for putting all this together, and also our special guest, Natasha Barrett, which you will hear about in just a few minutes. The cool thing about Natasha is that she's a Cypress Falls graduate. Unfortunately, I missed her. I came just a little bit behind her, but we share a love for Cypress Falls, and I know that you'll hear a little bit about that. I want to let you know how very impressed I am with you as a journalism student. I think that you have a very difficult job. I think journalism is tough today because there's always a story and then there's the real story. And so I appreciate you and what you're learning and how to do the story and how to do it right. I'm just all messed up. Maybe it's my phone. Let's make it. And so I just appreciate all that you do and the journalism teachers for making them understand how important the details are. And that's also how important it is, how important perception is. So Cypress Falls is the largest school in Cypress Fairbanks ISD. We're pushing 38. We're right between 3,700 and 3,800. We were supposed to be over 4,000, but luckily they didn't all show up. And so the school was built for 3,000, and so we're a little full, but boy, we have a great time here. We do very well athletically, academically. Our kids are amazing, very diverse group. We most mirror the district and what the district looks like ethnically and economically. And so we most look like Cypress Fairbanks ISD in our little Cypress Falls. So we're so glad that you're here. We hope you will feel welcome. There's restrooms right outside to the left, just to the girls, and to the right when you walk out, it's to the boys. And our water fountain out there, but you have snacks. So thanks again for coming. We're so glad you're here. And special thanks to you, Natasha. What a beautiful example of what a Cypress Falls graduate is supposed to be. So thank you very much. Y'all welcome Joel.
And also, I forgot to mention, there is a sign-in sheet. If you didn't sign in, please do that. And we have handouts. One is a little bio of Natasha, and then the other has example questions of some questions you guys could ask. And I know we have great representation here from Cy Fair, of course, the host, Cy Falls, and I see Cy Ranch. Am I missing anyone else? Thank you guys so much. I'm going to have Lexi Shaw, the yearbook editor for Cy Falls, here come up and really just talk about the publications and the team here.
Hi, my name's Lexi. I'm the yearbook editor here, and a little about us is we're really small. We're a really small staff. There's only 9 of us, so we're really active. A lot of us are also in sports and extracurricular activities like band and theater. Our newspaper, there's only two newspapers, people on our staff, and our newspaper is The Wingspan and online. Well, for us, it's actually like a really good year for us. A lot of us, we get along really well, and most staffs do, but sometimes you have some issues and people don't get along. But this year we really do, and it's really awesome to have a group like we do. A lot of us stay after voluntarily and miss our lunch and stay to work together, which is really awesome to see that we are getting it all together and getting it done. And yeah, I'm just really glad y'all are all here to together.
And just to remind you guys, since we are live streaming, we'll be accepting questions also through the hashtag CFISDpresser, and you guys can also use that here if you want to post any photos or comments while you're here. And we also have a website they can go to, todaysmeet.com/CFISDpresser, another place they can enter questions. So, without further ado, we will introduce Natasha Barrett, our guest speaker. As you have probably heard, she's with ABC 13 and has been there less than 2 years.
Yeah, coming up on 2 years, yeah.
And she's a Cypress Falls graduate. So, there's a lot of great things to share with you today. I'm going to let her briefly introduce herself, and then we're going to open it up for some questions. So let's all welcome Natasha. Yeah.
Hello. I feel silly being up here and you guys are down there. But thank you for having me. I haven't walked through these doors, Joel, I don't know if I should say how many years. Really dig me, they'll be like, oh my God. But I haven't walked through these doors since I graduated, since I left for graduation, which would have been 20 years in May. Look at their faces. I graduated on May 14th, 1996, which I thought about last night when I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going back to high school and how cool it is because I haven't walked through here. I've driven by tons of times because my mom still lives not too far from here. But I haven't walked through the doors. I thought, you know, the people I'm going to talk to were not even born when I started in this school in 1992, right? Right? How about when I graduated in 96? Okay then. And that's crazy. But I started in this high school when it was brand new. 1992, it was brand new. I thought I was going to go to Cypress Creek because that's where the boundaries were. There were like 4 or 5 high schools in the 90s here. And they told me Cypress Falls. I'm like, dude, what? So all my middle school friends from Campbell like went to Cypress Creek. And I had to make new friends out here, so it was really scary. Anyway, but made great friends who, my best friend from high school lives out in Sugar Land, not too far from me, so it's really cool. I still have friends from this school, and I hope you will too. You know, you find the ones you really like and you keep in touch. But anyway, so when I started school here, half of it was still under construction. Like the wing out by like the football hallway, that ramp, it was all, like they were still doing bricks. It was crazy. And we started with 9th and 10th graders. I was in 9th grade. So we thought we were really cool because we called ourselves the first class to pass because we went through all 4 years. And we even had t-shirts, which I still have somewhere. You were really cool. You should just agree with me. We were. And, but it was neat because we created maybe some of the traditions you're still doing now, like, you know, the school song, the fight song, different things like that. I was a sky dancer. And so we thought we had a hand in some traditions because we didn't have homecomings. We had home warming dances because nobody was coming home yet. We were the ones to come home. So it was kind of that neat kind of stuff that, you know, I guess not a lot of people get to do because you come to school and it's been here for 20-something years. Well, I was one of the first, so hopefully I don't look it. But I appreciate you being here and wanting to learn more. Does anybody watch Channel 13? Okay. Somebody watch Channel 2 in this crowd? Don't admit it. That's your job, right? No, I have many friends in all places, so it's all good. Well, let's start it up. What kind of questions do y'all have?
And just remember, say your name and your school that you're with.
He's gonna give you a mic.
My name is Julia, and I'm at Cypress High School, and I'm the editor of the paper with John and Tony. And I wanted to know, what did you do in college?
The stuff I can tell since we're live streaming right now. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm bad. I went to school in DC. I knew I wanted to kind of get out of Texas, so I applied to schools like Arizona, Colorado. I remember being in the counselor's office going, oh, that looks cool, okay. And I ended up going to American University, which has a very good communications department. And I had an idea, oh, I wanted to do this. It seemed interesting, and so I decided to do it, right? So in college, I had a lot of internships. And DC was great for that because you have, you know, obviously our nation's capital. You have tons of government outlets, news outlets, anything you want to do. So when I was in college, we had a college TV station. And so I did that. And so there's some interesting tape somewhere of me trying to look cool on TV for my first time. But it was a great experience. I did that. I wrote for the paper in college and worked at CBS News in DC. I did a semester abroad and lived in London for 6 months and worked at CNBC Europe. And where else did I work? My first TV internship was in San Antonio because my sister was going to UTSA getting her master's. So I said, I'm gonna live with my sister for 3 months in the summer, and I worked at a TV station there. And I interned at Channel 11 here and worked for them. So I kind of just, whoever would give me attention, I was like, I'll work for you, you know? And it was just the greatest experience because I knew I wanted to do it. So I just kept doing it, and that's kind of how it started. Does that answer your question? Yeah. There's handouts. There's going to be a quiz after you read that handout, so pay attention. Yes, sir.
I'm John Sanchez from Cypress High School. What's it like to work in a
It's crazy. Crazy fun. but also crazy as in always changing. So if you like that, which is what attracted me to it, I always knew I didn't want to, have like that office job where you always knew when you walked in it's going to be the same thing. And, I like the excitement of things. I like change. And on a given day, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like this week, to talk about the crazy, my schedule, I got up at 2 a.m. to work today and was on the news, 4:30 a.m. And I was just filling in for somebody, but that's probably how sleep deprived I am right now. So if I start talking Spanish, hopefully you understand me. But so you have just ever-changing schedule. You're always learning and talking to and meeting new people. And I think if that's something, that natural curiosity you have now, it would be a good fit. But if you're somebody that likes to, I know what I'm going to do today, I know what time I'm going to get off work, it might not be your deal because things change. And some days you think you're going to get off at 6 o'clock, but if, God forbid something terrible happens, you have to go cover it, and that's your job. But it's also, some days can be great and rewarding and coming to talk to you guys. So I think that's what I like about it. It's always changing, always different.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Cameron Coble, and I go to Cypress High School.
Mhm.
And my question is, did you participate in any extracurricular activities during your high school career at Cypress Falls that prepared you for being a reporter?
As far as a reporter, I didn't do the newspaper here, like those kinds of things. But I think what I did do, I was, an officer in drill team, and student council. I was my class historian that year, and did different other little clubs. But I think that prepared me, definitely drill team, because it's so disciplined, and to be disciplined and find something you love, and you're working toward a goal and held accountable, that really helped me, I think, later in life. Because you had to, at a young age, be held to a standard to, basically be disciplined or be, called out. That really shaped me moving forward. It's kind of like being in a small army because you have to, know what's going on at all times and be responsible. So I think things like that, even though they weren't journalism based, to this day, I'll tell a story or remember, and it comes back to that, starting out early and having to be an adult. Yeah. Oh, you need a mic.
I probably do. I'm pretty loud anyway. So.
What's that?
I said I'm pretty loud anyway. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stay for the professional.
I have two questions. One was about psychology, and one was about your professional stuff. Did you always want to work in journalism, or was that just kind of something in like college you got into?
I had an idea. It was funny, when I moved back to Texas like 2 years ago and I was going through my old stuff, there was like some project that my English teacher made us do in the 10th grade, and it was like a 5-year plan and blah, blah, blah. And this is really nerdy but hilarious. So you know who Melanie Lawson is at the station? She's been there forever, right? I watched her as a kid. I'm sure you guys know who she is. We had to write like a letter to the person where we wanted a job. I wrote a letter to her, like in the computer lab, and I found it. And I'm like, I sit next to her at work now. So I brought it in. I was like, look at this. You never wrote me back. No, I don't think I sent it. I don't think I sent it. But it was just, I guess I had that. I remember being interested in it. I was like that, or I thought I was going to be a lawyer, but that never happened. That was just like a fling. But I'm like, how many years of school do you have to do? Never mind. But I just thought it was cool. I was interested in it. So I guess early on, looking back, I had an idea. And so then I was like, okay, let me try this in school. And then, they always say you get the journalism bug and it sticks with you. So that's kind of what happened.
And then my other question was, I'm in the Cypress band, and then nowadays the band and the drum team don't get along very well, and I was wondering if it was like that when y'all were in school, or if it's like a new thing.
Well, I heard like the drill team is much smaller now. Is that true? We had 104 girls.
No, it's not band. The band's like 300 though.
That makes me sad. That makes me really sad. We were pretty awesome.
The directors of the two don't always agree, and so I was like, was it like that when y'all were in school? Or
Was it always what?
Was it always like where the directors didn't always agree, or is that kind of a newer thing?
We didn't have major problems like that. Yeah. I mean, I remember practicing with you guys outside in the heat on the cement outside and, doing that and almost dying out there because we had a director that when it was so hot and people were talking she made us use ankle weights to high kick. What was actually good, she used to be a rangerette. So when she came in, we thought, oh my goodness, what is this? But again, back to the discipline, right? So it was 1 pound ankle weights. It was good for what we were doing, got our high kicks up higher. I tell you this because we'd be out there with the band, and somebody was talking, she'd make us high kick in that summer sun until she said it was enough. So maybe the band liked watching that, but we got along. We worked together, and I think, maybe it's just kids being kids. I'm sure there were people that were like, oh, those girls, but it seemed that we got along.
I was just wondering.
No problem.
What was your name?
I'm Kat, and I'm with Cypress Falls.
Just making sure.
Hi, I'm Audrey Gray. I'm from Psych Fair. And for someone wanting to go into a broadcast journalism career, once you get out of college, where would you say like the best place to start is? Like once you're out of college?
Oh, once you're out of college?
Yes.
Where you should start? Well, I think, like I said, the TV intern, if you want to do TV, newspaper, now it's more web-based, whatever digital media you want to be in. While you're in school, do the internships. They don't pay. Actually, one of mine did, but they're few and far between. But it's the experience. To know you want to do this. Because you could say, oh, I want to do this, and then you could go 4 years and get this degree and think, oh gosh, I don't, after your first job. And you spent all this money and dreamt about this and thought, So get that experience. A, you'll figure out if you want to do this. B, you'll get experience to go to the next thing. So after school, for me, and this was before, you sent video digitally, we sent what was a resume tape, which is basically a VHS tape or the smaller tapes. Yeah, seriously, VHS. Do you know what VHS is? Yeah. And you would take your work and kind of like a resume, but we called it a resume tape. They were clips, and you would do a montage, and you would send it out, and on the spine of the VHS would have your name and your phone number. And it may have been a phone number before my first cell phone, yeah. And that's what you would send to stations, and you would send them all over the country. And same for newspaper reporters, they would send their clippings. And hopefully somebody would look at it, or maybe you had a friend of a friend that would look at it. News directors and bosses and editors would get stacks this high, and you're hoping, gosh, they'll look at my stuff. And that's how it was. You just sent to send. And I sent all over the country. I was like, well, maybe I'll work in Hawaii. I don't know. But I started in Corpus Christi, which was funny because I spent 4 years in DC and thought, okay, I'm going to end up who knows where, somewhere I haven't been. But and that's how it happened. Somebody called me and interviewed me, and yeah, so you just gotta be out there. And in the contacts you make through your internships or people you meet, you follow up with them. And I mean, there's somebody at Channel 11 to this day that gave me my first job over there that I went back and saw for lunch. And that was somebody years and years ago that I would send my stuff and be like, am I good enough? Who should I send this to? So it's just making it like any job, your contacts, and just kind of generating from that. Thank you. You're welcome. Don't be shy.
Okay, my name's Peyton. I'm with St. Falls, and I saw this on the paper, so don't think I'm original. But we all see.
You read it. That's good. Joel likes that.
We all see things on the news that really hit us and get us really emotional. So, what was the hardest story for you to cover?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. First of all, there's been a lot of ones. You have to, at least for me, I know a lot of people have their own ways to separate themselves from the story, when it's very emotional and you need to tell it, like when you're interviewing people. But the ones with kids get me, any kind of kid story where I'm just like, I'm done, something bad happens. The hardest story. It may have been, and this was years ago when I worked in Virginia Beach, Virginia. It was just a story about a car wreck, and it was days after we were going to cover it, and an 18-wheeler had hit a family and killed the entire family. The only person that wasn't in the car was the dad, so it was like 3 children and the mom gone. And we were there, and I think there was like a memorial out on the street, and the dad stopped by. And we had no idea. We were just like, hi, sir, da-da-da-da, ended up being the father. And he just lost his entire family like a day before. And he stopped and was talking to us, and was just the sweetest guy, and I just broke down, just cried, and I hugged him. I mean, we talked to him for 30 minutes, and it was just the worst thing ever. But I still remember it, and I still get emails from him to this day, about like, thank you, which I'm like, why are you thinking me? You know what I mean? But it's those kind of things. Some people think like interviewing, like tomorrow I shouldn't say this, but I'm supposed to interview with Dwight Howard from the Rockets. And I'm excited about that, but those aren't the ones that you go, oh yeah, that was the coolest interview. It's like the real people that, like that guy who, you know, said thank you to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you stopped to talk to us, and we're nice, and we just lost your entire family, and those kinds of things, if that makes any sense. I mean, there are cool people that I've interviewed, don't get me wrong, like JJ Watt or, you know, other people, that's on my list, but I think it's the real people that are going through awful, awful struggles, you know, that are still, can hold their head high and, you know, overcome. So there's a lot of that, but there's a lot of strong people out there, like that guy.
I don't remember my name this time, so I'm Kat, Cypress Falls, and one Peyton was saying, I was wondering what was your favorite story to do? So she was asking about the worst story. I want to know what your favorite one was.
Oh my goodness. It's a hard one. I really don't have to think about that. Like I said, I'm old, so there's a lot of stories that I've done. Wow. I mean, there's, when I think of cool, like I covered President Obama's inauguration. That was very, very cool. When I worked in DC, so there were a lot of those things. I covered Dancing with the Stars, and I've gotten to meet all those people. What else is neat? My goodness. Covering the Texans and be on the field with them is really neat. I'm trying to think of, I'll get back to that. Let me think of that, of like a real story. I'm trying to think. You got me, you got my head there. Anyone else?
And ask Dwight Howard if he wants to be our next guest.
Oh, sure, I'll ask, that's the first thing I'll ask, yeah, for sure.
We actually do have a question via Twitter from CCHS Press at Side Creek. Who influenced you the most and why?
Side Creek Press, like the high school newspaper?
Yeah.
That's cool, both my sisters went there.
Awesome.
And what was the question? Sorry, tired.
Who influenced you the most and why?
Well, my mom never sees this, I should say that. Influenced me the most. I would say my first drill team director. If you think about being in high school, her name was Pam Lake. Where is she a principal now?
She just retired from Wilson Elementary after about 32 years.
I am old, retired. How is she old enough? She was at elementary or middle school?
Elementary is where she finished up. She was at Cypress High School for a while, right?
No, her husband.
Her husband's at
yeah,
Cypress.
he's in education.
She just retired and so did her husband.
Yeah, so she was the first director here.
Cool.
I would say her, going back to the discipline thing when you think of high school and just having your, you know what, straight, that formed me. That formed me a lot. And like achieving, I think. And thinking like, I've gotten a drill team. My parents couldn't afford a dance class or anything. And I wasn't good at sports. Like maybe volleyball. I made the final cut in 8th grade and then they cut me. So that tells you anything. But so dance was my thing. And all of a sudden I was somewhat good at it and started making the team and doing all that kind of stuff. So that really helped me because I finally found a talent. Anyway, what about this side of the room? You guys are very quiet.
Hi, I'm Emmy Hinohado from Cypress High School, and I was wondering, what are your future plans? Like career plans?
Goals?
Yeah.
I have no goals. No, I'm just kidding. They just asked us that in the station for New Year's. We were doing like a web video. And they're like, tell us about your goals. And I'm like, oh, go ahead. What do you mean? My goal is to get more sleep today. So literally Tuesday, I woke up and an hour and a half of sleep, did the morning show, 4 hours last night, and here I am. So I'm like, yes, sleep is the first one. Just kidding. But seriously, yes, sleep in my bed. We've got a lot of bonding to do. My goals. Wow. I really want to tell better stories on the news. When we think of just like the immediate goals, we do a lot of stories that I think, you know, you watch it and you're like, that's a terrible story, or that's that, gosh, why do they always do that story? Why do they always da 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 da? But my immediate goal would be to do better that way. I think there's some awesome people that live in this town, and we don't highlight the positive, the good stuff, you know? It's always, unfortunately, the bad stuff. And we fight for that at school. We fight for that at school, where am I? in the newsroom a lot, to be like, yeah, but there's this, and we should tell this, and that's what people care about. So I think that, beyond that, you're talking more professional, right?
Yes.
I do enjoy my role where I work right now, in case my boss is listening, it's wonderful. But in DC, I did a couple different things. I hosted a talk show and reported the news. Here, I anchor on the weekend evenings. I'm sure you guys have illustrious social lives, so you don't watch, hopefully, on the weekend evenings. But if you do, that's where you can find me. And I report during the week. So I would think the next thing I would like to, develop a little bit more at the station. And we're working on like more special projects, maybe even going to the Oscars this month or next month, and covering cool things like that. So that's what we're working on. Yeah, you're welcome.
So, I know news stations have what you call fluff stories, the fluffier ones. Or, do you feel like that there's a proportionate ratio of like fluff stories to like real stories?
No.
Or are you like softening people, like softening the public for stories? Like,
are we looking to do more fluff? Is that what you're saying?
Well, do you feel like there's a good ratio?
Yeah, I don't. There are the fluff stories. There's also the feature stories. I would say the feature stories are the good stories I want to tell. And a lot of times you have to fight for that because it's like, oh, well, these 10,000 things happened today in Houston. Houston is a big city with a lot of people doing a lot of bad things, unfortunately. But there's a lot of good out there. So I think there's a fight, but it's also how many people you have as employees in a newsroom, I think. To cover a city like Houston, which is huge, you think about, how many reporters we have, which is probably, 12, maybe more. And to be able to cover what you need to cover, and then cover the good stuff. There is that war all the time. Like the story I was telling you I'm going to cover tomorrow. I got a call about it. We're supposed to be the only ones doing it tomorrow. And I'm like, they need to know, they need to know, they need to know. Well, I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can. I'm like, come on, we got to do this. Because somebody else is going to do it. There's that fight too. And you've got, as a journalist, a reporter, whatever you guys hope to do in journalism, from being an editor, a boss, anything, to somebody that's doing the story. There's always that fight, good and bad, but where you speak up to do the stories. We have morning meetings and afternoon meetings. So when we go in, our job is to, assess from people we know, sources or things we've heard. And if we think it's a good story, to fight for it and be like, I know you want to do that, but I've got this. And I think this is important because of A, B, C, and D. And so that goes on all the time. Yeah.
We have another Twitter submission from Cy Lakes Journalism. They ask, how do you choose your fashion when being on TV?
Well, 2 a.m. Is it clean? Does it smell good? No. Well, there's certain things, at least in the TV world, that work well on air that don't work well in person. You probably noticed there's not a lot of patterns on shirts because that makes cameras go crazy and probably would make you go dizzy if we put on tiny little patterns on our shirts and things like that. You learn over, trial and error, what looks good on you, what doesn't. And the viewers will tell you, my goodness, oh my goodness, they will tell you. The emails I get, the ratio of talking about content of the story to how your hair was, or how your makeup looked, or how that dress looked, oh, they'll tell you. It's the funniest thing ever. And I remember to this day, this was years ago in Virginia, and I walked into an Exxon station just to use the restroom. We were going on a road trip. And the lady behind the table said, the counter said, you look a lot skinnier in person like that. I was like, oh, well, okay. Like, she saw it as a compliment. I'm like, well, then I'll just put away these fat-free pretzels I just picked up in this water. So they're very vocal. They'll let you know. But, I think people feel like they know us because they see us every day. But that cracks me up. Like, when people say that, I'm like, okay. But to answer that question, you just kind of learn by doing. And you also have bosses that will give their opinion as well. I had this one woman I worked with who's a dear friend of mine. She had naturally curly hair. And this one boss would hate it. Don't you wear your curly hair on television. She hated blow drying it out every day. So bosses have their opinions of what looks good on you and what doesn't, for sure. Which is something you have to put up with because there's the story as a journalist. But in the TV world, there's also, let's face it, people want to look at people that look good on television, right? So there's that facet that's kind of a little silly, but, plays in the game.
I kind of have like a silly question, but kind of like just something that, I don't know. Do you do your own hair and makeup, or do you have like people that do it for you? You do it? It looks good.
Thank you. There there are people in the newsroom that might have some people come in. And some stations they pay for people to come in and do the makeup. I find that most people that do my makeup, it's like, oh, I don't look like myself, so let me do it. I would die for a hair person. So if any of you want to come in and do my hair, that's the biggest, as girls, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, especially this Houston humidity, it's like, it looked good at 9 a.m., now I have to go on TV, and I want to wear a hat. Like, but it just depends what station. Some people bring some people in, but I do all my stuff.
Hi, I'm Lil Harris, and I teach journalism at Cypress. All these wonderful
Hi.
kids. Okay, so I have a question that they're probably not thinking about right now, but it will come up in their future. They'll go to college and they'll eventually get married and have a family.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you, the mom of you, wants to know, how do you manage your job and the last minute things with your sheet says you have 2 children?
Yes, yes. I'm actually a stepmother, but that plays into that. And you know, this young lady over here who asked me about goals, there are definite personal goals that I want to have my own children. And you know, this is a conversation that you have a lot. If you look at mothers in the newsroom, we have 3 pregnant women at Channel 13 right now. So I'm only drinking the Cypress Falls water that's here. But Alumna, our anchor at 4 o'clock, she just announced that she's having a baby girl. And I don't know if you watch the morning news, Sanika's pregnant. And another one of our reporters, Maya. So they're all very excited, but 3 pregnant women. And you look at it and you look at your friends in the newsroom and you go, how do you do it? How do you work? And I think everybody thinks that. How do you pull it off? Because our hours are not normal. So that's a definite question right now. How do you still do your job and be a good mom and be a good friend and do everything? And the easy answer is I have no idea. So if you have any tips, I would like that. My stepdaughter, who it just turned 21, my husband's just a tad older than me, but he had babies really early. What'd you say?
So you don't have little ones, so that's
No. They were, I mean, they've been in my life since they were probably about 9 and 10. And we would have them half the time. So there was that juggle, but not the juggle of this is my child here 24/7, you know, that I have to, you know, feed and make sure she's okay. I have a kid, but you know what I'm saying. But even with my stepdaughter who lived here when we moved back for a year and started college here, it still was a struggle, even though she was 19 years old when she was with me. It was, I can't be home for dinner, you know, and I want to be, but, you know, dinner would be at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I mean, I get home 7:30, 8 o'clock most days, and then on the weekends I get home at midnight. So there is that hard thing where I love this career, but I also want to be a mother. So how do I do that? So I've got to figure that out. So email me some tips.
Oh, everyone.
This side woke up,
Who hasn't
yes.
asked a question yet? Have you not?
I don't feel that.
Okay.
Adding on to that question about being a mother, do you think being like a female journalist, we face more hurdles?
That's good.
My name is Belinda and I'm from Cypress Falls.
I think that's a very good question. There's a lot of people that have trailblazed before us that have made it easier for us. I mean, it was not even 30 to 40 years ago when a woman wasn't on television. So that's not that long ago, even though it sounds like a long time ago. There's probably still some things, and I think in all jobs where you might see, I don't know if it's favoritism, but just choices that I think are made because of someone being male or female. But I don't see it in my newsroom in the last couple of years, and if it were to happen, I'll be the person to say something. You know what I mean? I think these days it's a lot more outspoken, or we are more outspoken because it's more slightly acceptable because of what my parents have done, have overcome and struggled with before. And companies are a lot more sensitive now. So they, they can't just be like, well, that's what the guys do, not the girls. So I fortunately haven't had trouble with that recently. Yeah.
So hi, I'm Joseph.
Hi.
I'm with Cypress Falls. I'm in the journalism class. So my question for you is, with all the work you have to do and the very little amount of sleep you probably get.
Have I said that a lot today?
Yes.
That isn't normal. It's just I've just been filling in on that schedule.
But so, anyway, you said like anybody has advice. I do have one little piece of advice because my sister, not my real sister, she's like my friend. She's a family. Anyway, she's in theater. It's really stressful for her because she has to do a lot of the classwork and she has to be there for rehearsal and all. But I interviewed her today for a class, and I asked her that very same question, and she told me this, and I thought this was a really important piece of advice. Take a breather. Find that one spot where you don't have to do anything and just relax. Don't worry about your job, don't worry about whatever, just worry about yourself and take a breather.
Yeah. She means like while you're at work or just in life
Just
or what?
whenever you can. If you can find 5 minutes, just take a load off for those 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then get back up and do what you're doing.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Anyway, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, during interviewing and all, you always have that really silly moment and all. So,
I always have it personally.
well, like,
I'm kidding. Everyone He's like, I do this.
everyone at some point in their life has some embarrassing moment or something really silly happen. So I was wondering if you've ever had anything like that.
No, I'm perfect.
No, you're perfect.
I can't call one. What do I want to say? There are plenty of funny ones. Like when I hosted my talk show in DC, it was a live talk show every day for an hour, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock, which was a lot of fun, but also terrifying at first. You know, because you're like, oh, am I going to handle this? But I love doing it. I mean, to the point where you'd have guests and you'd be interviewing them and they'd walk up, so you need to know how to carry the show. That happens, you know. But there are a lot of quirky things where we would eat, and, you know, chefs come on, all that kind of stuff, fun movie stars that would come through Washington. But there was one time we were eating and I was choking on a chip and it was just unfair. And I was trying to talk. I think I played it off nice, but there are definitely those quirky moments. I've had some of the more serious stories. You know, I was at a live shot outside of the National Zoo in DC and there was a stabbing or some kind, I think there was a crime. Yeah, it was a stabbing. So it was breaking news. I was outside doing my report and there were, you know, older kids just coming up behind us and threatening violence. So as a reporter, there's a lot of that you kind of have to watch out for because you're out in the thick of things. When you think about it, we bring in these bad stories a lot from all different kinds of neighborhoods, good and bad. So you kind of have to watch your back. But there was those times where I was on live television and something was happening and I'm trying to talk and at the same time I'm worried about my back, you know? So having to handle that in a way on television without looking too scared, but looking like, I'm gonna let this go back to the anchors right now and, you know, that kind of thing. There's been those moments. So there's the funny moments, but I think these days, you probably see on the internet, there's so many people that want to jump behind reporters and say something and it's funny, but, you know, at the same time, it's like, this is my office. You know, and I worked all day to do this, and there's just some, you know what, that's over here. And but on the other side, you saw what happened in Virginia to that reporter. You know, that horrible, horrible thing. So there is that safety concern that happens a lot that is also stressful on the job. You know, when you're at different places, you really need to watch what's happening because unfortunately, just like at schools and universities, there's bad people. So yeah. So but choking on the chip, that was hard.
So I have one more question though. So being a reporter, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and all. So in the future, I'm hoping to go into some profession in writing, be it journalism or authorship or something of the sort. But how do you feel when you have to put yourself out there?
As far as get personal, you mean, or just being on TV, people knowing who you are, like
just kind of how do you feel? It's like when you kind of put yourself out there when nobody really knows who you are.
Well, I guess what you're asking is, well, it's kind of twofold, isn't it? People knowing you but not knowing you.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is that factor where you know, you walk in the mall with your mom and people will whisper, and I'm like, why, is there something? Oh, no, it's the job, okay, you forget, you know. But that's nice, most people around here, they're just very happy to see you, and it's cool that way. But I think everything has been more positive that way, you know. But at the same time, because your work is on television, it's very important when you're out in your personal life and not your professional life to carry yourself in a certain manner because you represent your company, your station, and things like that, you know? Things you probably do with your friends, you know, or put on Facebook or Twitter. Don't do that. That's gonna come back to haunt you. I know I sound like your mom and dad, but seriously, I still have to tell my stepdaughter that, like, I can see that. She doesn't get it still. But does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Does that help? Okay.
My name's Lexi, and
Yes.
I'm from Cypress Falls. You said you had to do a lot of internships and everything. What was your favorite internship and like, why?
Okay. Yeah, that was a good one. Probably the one here in Houston was great. I mean, there are reporters now that I work with side by side as competitors that I worked with, and we went out on news stories together when I was just a little kid. Like Sherman Chow at Channel 11, I would go out with her in the car and be like, "Hi, can I go with you today?" And now we're right next to each other at breaking news, and I'm just like, "Hey, what'd you have for lunch?" You know, it's just funny. So I learned a lot in this town. So to be able to come back, not only, you know, growing up here, I mean, I was born and raised here, born at Memorial City Hospital, you know, raised in Harvest Bend. That's where I grew up all 18 years. And went to Franco and Campbell and Cypress Falls. So this is really home. So to be here as a child and then to be here growing up as when I was an intern and to come on back is really a cool feeling. You know, it's like, oh, okay, it all worked out, you know. But I would say probably when I worked in San Antonio and at Channel 11, because I really was able to and got the advantage to go out on stories and interview people and kind of hone my craft and learn what I was doing, and had great people that are now my colleagues teach me, and now get to come back and work with them, you know. It's neat. It's neat to work in your hometown. But at the same time, you feel old because you're like, well, that used to be over there. I sound like my dad. I'm like, oh, hi. Just like when I pulled up here, I'm like, you have a gas station, you know, on the other side of the tracks. We had cows everywhere, which, I mean, there's still cows, in fact, because you know what I mean. But I would drive, so from Harvest Bend, you know where that is, right? Yeah. By the stadium. Y'all still use that stadium?
Yeah, Bridget.
Yeah, okay, so right over there. And that was my drive here. And I would never have gas in my car. I was telling you this a second ago, I would never have gas in my car when we had to be in at 7:30, right? Always late, always late. And so it'd be like 7:28 and a train would come. I'd be like, oh. And either I'm gonna like be tardy or run out of gas. And now there's a gas station over there. You know how much I needed that? Back then, I was driving on gas vapors. Anyway. No one asked about that, but I told you. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Nicole Chair. I go to Cypress High School and I'm on the newspapers. I was wondering, because I remember from a few questions ago, we talked about how there's like safety concerns when you're on the job. What is one of the scariest moments that you've ever had while working, like either live or anywhere else?
They unfortunately all go to crime stories, and as a reporter, if you get in this industry, that's a lot of the news we cover is crime. I had two horrible ones that stick out. They're pretty serious. Early on in my career, when I worked in Norfolk, Virginia, I was driving to, this was at night, like 9 o'clock at night, I was driving to interview somebody. It was in a shady neighborhood, but we were going there, and we were at a stoplight, and I remember there's like a convenience store like right here, and I just saw a man stand over another man and shoot him, like several times. I'm just like, can't believe I saw that, you know. And, you know, it happened in DC too. I saw a man right outside of our live truck. It was daylight. And get shot in the head and killed. That kind of still gets me checked up. It was only 3 years ago, but it's right there. And so that moment, you're like, did that just happen? Now I'm unsafe. It's the middle of the day. I just saw this. They know I saw this, you know, that kind of thing, because the guy got away, but eventually is in prison now. There are those parts of the job, you know, TV looks really glamorous, you know, oh, my hair's cute, oh, this, you know, wearing a cute outfit, but there's a lot at play. There's a lot at play and behind the stories that, I always call it the story behind the story. The story behind the story, I think, is always much more interesting, and how I did this story that people would be interested in than what really went on. But there's definitely that concern. You're around a lot of real life stuff, and scary. You think, you know, you live in a bubble sometimes. I think you think, you know, probably you go to school, everything's fine, whatever, and something like that really really affects you, unfortunately. It's horrible, but yeah, I've had to see some things I wish I could unsee.
So, back to a happier topic.
Yes, please save us. I wrote the room down.
I was wondering, like, have you ever just been like at the grocery store walking down the street and someone like noticed who you are and like approached you and you're like, oh my gosh, I see you on TV?
Yes, and I remember the first time ever, I was in Target on a Saturday, had my hair like in a scrunchie, you know, looking pretty cute, you know, and buying things, girl things, and they were on the conveyor belt, and this kid said, "Oh, you're Natasha," like that. I'm just like, oh my gosh. No, because she has a twin, you know. And that was like the first taste of it. We're like, oh my goodness, you know. It would always be at the times where you just look like you don't want to look, you know, it's late night in the grocery store, and you just want to get in and out, and somebody, you know, always very nice, but you're like, oh, why today, you know? And they're always loud. You're just like, ah. But yeah, that happens. But it's great. I mean, it's funny that being in my hometown when it's happening, because I've always worked away. So when I come to visit my mom or my sisters, it's like, oh, no one knows me here. It's fine. I wear no makeup. Nobody will know me. Well, they know me now. So yeah, there is that. But everybody's really cool about it. They're very welcoming and always have questions like, is so-and-so really nice? Is Dave Ward really nice? Yes. And I anchored with him, I think about a year ago when I came here, and it's, you know, I'm on the desk, and he's next to me, I'm just like, getting ready. They're like 15 seconds. I'm like, Ward, how you doing? You know, I've watched him all my life. He's hysterical. And I don't know, maybe we should shut the camera down, and tells me dirty jokes in the commercial break. He's hysterical. So the first time that happened, I'm like, we're at a commercial break. This is Dave, and he's telling me I'm dying, and then we're coming back to a serious story. I'm like, he just told me. He's a professional, but hilarious at the same time. Hilarious. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Switch, and I'm from
Switch?
Yeah.
That is a cool name. What's your last name?
Real life.
That is really neat.
Thank you. And I'm from Cypress Falls, and I was wondering, how do you get the confidence to go out on the camera every single day?
Fake it till you make it. I've always been loud and kind of an extrovert, even though it's funny, I say that I'm shy, and my husband's like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, it's so uncomfortable, I am, but I push myself, so I've always pushed myself, and I love the feeling of adrenaline. I guess that goes back to performing, you know, like right before we practice the dance, and I just love that feeling. And I go off of that. So even if I have nerves, which I will, like say, I love the deadline too. I think that's what's so funny. Like even when I'm at home and I need to do something, like, I don't need to do it yet. Not until I really need to do it. So I've just always been that way, which is why this job, I guess, is good for me. But I love the good butterflies that I still get. And so that gets me going. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No question is stupid.
We actually did have another follow-up tweet from Side Lakes when you're talking about the incident in Virginia. Do you feel like there need to be more safety precautions, or how have you guys, I guess, worked to manage that on the job?
Well, right before I came to Channel 13, they had a shooting outside of their front gates. And it was a couple weeks before I left my station in DC, and I remember seeing it, you know, on CNN going, oh, okay. Unfortunately, it was a mentally ill woman. She wasn't going after anybody, but it scared him enough. And then it happened, and then about a month or two after that, somebody tried to get in our station, got past one layer of security. So they're taking a lot of precautions, as they should, and they've handled it amazingly. But there's always been that, I guess, concern and how to properly secure. You can secure a newsroom, but we're people that go out to gather news. I mean, we just can't do our job from inside an office. We have to go out in the public. So I think that there's a big discussion of that, and if you feel unsafe, you know, what we can do. Unfortunately, because how staffing is in newsrooms across the country, you know, there have been cutbacks recently, so you do more with less, that we can't have an extra pair of eyes. And one of the realities is it's me and a photographer that are out there. So if we're doing our craft, like, you know, you saw what happened in Virginia, a lot of people said, how did they not see that guy? You watch that video, you know, how did they not see that guy come out of nowhere? But you think about it, you're doing your thing. It's like, if you're my photographer, it's me and you're holding the camera, I'm trying to remember everything and do everything. It's like tunnel vision, you know, you're in your office, you're trying to work, and unfortunately you shouldn't have to worry about that, but I mean, it is a big factor, and that just brought it to light, you know, even more for the public. But it's something, you know, we're at crime scenes when the cops have left, you know, and I'm like, well, the cops have left, should we leave? This is unsafe, you know. So you have to be your own, you have to be vocal and speak up if you feel unsafe. But I've had to do that if we're at stories. They're like, we need you to do a live report from where that happened, and it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, well, I'm not staying here because we do feel unsafe. And you have to be your own, you have to speak up for yourself and really think about that. That's always on our minds. Like I said, the stuff that's happened to us in the past, and also on our minds because there are people that are very friendly with knowing us, but then there's people that, you know, I've had friends that have had people that have, you know, followed them home from work and things like that. So there's a lot of that nature of the job that you have to really keep an eye on and think about your safety. You know, just be smart out there. Because unfortunately, bad things happen.
Nathan Williams from Cy Springs just tweeted in and asked, have you ever considered doing another career coming out of school? I know you talked about possibly being a lawyer.
Yeah, that was a quick second. I really always, to this day, I think being a teacher. But it would have to be elementary because I hear what you guys have to do. No, I have a good friend that started as like an 8th grade teacher, and I was like, oh my gosh. A teacher, I just think it's such an important job, and I would enjoy it. I love kids. I love just being around them, and when they're so innocent, getting them when they're innocent to share them, right? Before they're teenagers. But I just thought I'd always enjoy that.
Samantha, do you have a question?
Shout out to you.
So I'm still Joseph.
Good to thank you for the memo.
Okay, well, so thinking back to when you went here to high school, did you ever have any of those really quirky teachers that always did something really funny or really stupid?
It might still be here. I need to look that up first before I do that.
Maybe a little bit.
You're putting me on the spot. I had some really cool teachers. I'm trying to think. I had some personalities for sure. I'm thinking of stories and going, nope, can't tell that. Nope, can't tell that. Nope, they won't invite me back. All positive, all positive. You want a story? What do you want?
Tell us a story.
Tell us a story.
Story. I'll tell you off the live thing.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have time afterwards, so if you guys want to ask some more. We had another question from Daisy at Cy Lakes. Do you feel like reporters who go out in the field need any specialized training in regard to safety and skills?
You know, my company, I don't know if you guys know this, we're owned by Disney. Disney owns like ESPN and several local TV stations. So they're very good at their training for different types of situations. For, you know, not just safety that we've talked on a lot about reporters like needing to watch our backs and things like that, but there are stories that we cover now that are health related stories that could be, you know, going to a plant. Like there's a plant in Pasadena over the weekend that makes peroxide that had a fire and somebody died. Covering that when you don't know what chemicals are coming out of the plant but getting so close. I covered, another thing that comes to mind, like the space shuttle broke apart over Texas back in 2001, but you guys have read about it, I'm sure, seen video of that. It broke apart over the station I worked out in Waco. And we were traveling and just covering it and finding little bits of the shuttle. Here it would be on somebody's roof. We'd go 5 miles, somebody said they found this on the train tracks. It's from, and then NASA would come and they would take it to a warehouse that I think was like in Huntsville or Nacogdoches and just gather it all. And then they're like, oh, you shouldn't be touching that stuff. It has blah, 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 blah. We're like, what, is that gonna kill us? What are we doing? So then you don't think about stories like that in like at plants or when the anthrax thing happened. Have you, after 9/11, you read about that? You've heard about that, yes? After 9/11, there was this big anthrax scare, and there was somebody that sent actual anthrax through the postal system. Postal workers died because of it. And there was a trend where they started sending fake white powder to newsrooms. So we'd get mail and just open, our receptionist would open it, and it would most of the times be baby powder, but you didn't know. So like the whole station would have to be shut down. So there's those kinds of concerns where you're covering the story along with paramedics and other people and police officers, but we don't have the same, precautions, and we gotta be smart about it, if that makes any sense. Yeah, not get too close, even though you want to tell the story.
Why would somebody want to set a box full of like baby powder? Like trying to trick y'all? Are they mad at y'all? Or the things you're saying? Or
yeah, I mean, there could be people, there's all kinds of kinds out there, and I think there's people that like to do things for attention, unfortunately, and like to see that. It's hard to answer that question. But, and then sometimes people will find a story and maybe be upset about it and you don't even understand why, but you get that a lot. So I think more of it's for attention, people that are seeking that out.
Hi, I'm Cameron again, and my question is, what are some top qualities that you think an inspiring reporter or journalist should have?
Wow. Well, what do you think of my good qualities? You've got to be a go-getter. This isn't a job where you can just sit and let things happen and it'll come to me. You've got to be, like any given day, like I tell you in our newsroom where we walk in the morning and they want to know your story ideas or something, and there are days where you're like, I got nothing. But fortunately, Houston's a big town and things happen, so you'll be covering something. But even when you get assigned your story for the day, you're going to be on the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock news, you have to go out there and find those people to talk to. No one says, okay, Natasha, you're going to talk to Lexi today, you're going to talk to da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I set it all up. Nope. Joel knows. I've had to call him and be like, yeah, I heard this happened at X school, and he's like, oh God. But, what do you have? There's a lot of calling people to check out, that the stories happened, and then going out and finding them, And a lot of people don't want to talk to us, which I can't imagine why.
Especially when Bodie Galler just calls me at church on Sunday morning.
Right? Yeah, so we like to call people and interrupt their family time. And yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. So you have to be that person that goes out there and tries to make people feel comfortable, that want to talk to you, make them feel confident that they can trust you and why they should be talking. And there's earning that trust with people, which unfortunately on a deadline is hard, but you have to be able, that's a quality, to learn how to balance your time and get things done, be confident, and to be able to learn to get past people saying no to you. That's going to happen a lot, and not be discouraged. So I think it takes a certain kind of person. It's not all just, my name's in a byline, and that's really cool, and yes, it is cool. And, when you're on TV, there's that cool factor. I'm not going to lie, it is cool. I did that story, I'm proud of it, but beyond that, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not just, you see a minute of a reporter on TV, they had to get all that in that day from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock and make it look pretty and make the hair look pretty and, be on TV. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Hi, I'm Belinda from Cypress Falls. This might be a silly question, but how do you find stories in such a huge city?
I know, right? Thank God for high school friends on Facebook. There is no rhyme or reason. Facebook is a good thing, it's also a bad thing for news because everybody thinks that they know what's going on. It's like, that didn't happen. But in so many different ways. So, being at the grocery store and somebody would be like, hey, did you hear da-da-da-da-da? And it could just be some gossip and you're like, that's interesting. A lady was doing my hair at Tony and Guy at First Colony, and I was in her chair, and she was telling me how she met her husband on Instagram. Well, they weren't married yet. met him on Instagram because they both had one of those small cars that are British. They're cute.
Mini Cooper.
Yes, thank you. And so they met in this group, and they've been talking, and then it turned into FaceTiming, and they were going to meet for the first time at Bush Airport, and they decided, wouldn't it be crazy if we just got married in the same day? And I'm like, what? And then that day, they figured, okay, we're both going to do it. We met at Bush Airport. They felt like they knew each other enough. I'm like, you know each other enough? Okay, you're crazy. And then they went to the courthouse, had their first kiss that day when they got married. I'm like, I need to tell this story. And she was, I think she was married when I met her. I take it back. And like 3 months pregnant. And she told me, I'm like, oh my God. So I had to cover their story. So, I mean, I'm just going to get a haircut. And I'm like, are you serious? So I found a story that way. You know, it's just random stuff. Or just things you think that are interesting. You could be like, why does this happen? Why blah, 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 blah. I want to find out why. And being in the role that I'm in, it allows you to find out that question, you know, because you can be that speaker for people and find out why is that person being wronged, or why is that politician doing this, or why blah, blah, blah. Just natural curiosity is there too. But there's just no rhyme or reason. I mean, my neighbors will tell me something, and it's funny, my neighbors, I love them. They're like, well, this happened today in the neighborhood. Did you get this done? I'm like, let me get on it. But just, you know, people talking and being curious and, yeah, talking to people, and you never know what you're gonna get or see or hear.
There's time for one more, 2 more.
Well, I'd already asked, but I wanted to know if you figured out what your favorite story
gosh.
was. I'm going back to this one, I want to know.
No, I haven't. Oh my God, I promise, I will, it's a sleep thing, I will find out. I will find out within myself. She wanted to know what my favorite story was. Yeah. I really want to know.
Hi, I'm Katie Coronado. I'm the advisor here at Cypress Falls, and I know you said that you're going to drink the Cypress Falls water, but I'm also a friend.
Are you?
Listen
to Bobby here, right?
No, I got it.
By the way.
Thank you.
What do you do?
August 1st.
Boy or girl?
Oh, I don't know yet.
Oh, we're gonna find out?
Yeah, a couple
Your
weeks.
first?
Yeah.
Exciting.
Thank
Go I'm sure
They're everywhere. My question is, and I'm sure this has never happened to you, but what happens when you don't meet a deadline in the real world?
You're fired. Well, you know, there are times, there are times just because of technology or because of something or computer system or this didn't happen or blah, 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 where like you're supposed to be on the news at 4:01 and it's like, okay, can you make it at 4:05? Like, we're trying, the truck's broken, you know, there are those times you gotta go with it. And I think our bosses understand that as long as it's not something, you know, your fault, like you didn't get your job done. But there is that stress. You don't want to disappoint and you only have, you know, an hour to do it. And you sometimes after you do it, you think, how in the world did I just get that done? And now they're gonna expect more because I got it done. This is not good. But there's always that, like this morning, I mean, I was on the news at 5:30 and 6:30 with one story, and then they're like, we're gonna need you to go across town to do this. I get over there, like, never mind, we don't want that anymore for 11 a.m. We want you to go now to near the Galleria for blah, 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 and you're live at 11:30. I'm like, it's 10:27. I'm downtown. Okay, no problem, yeah, I see no problem in this. And we did it, you know, it's insane, but fun. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm Samantha Barry, I'm the advisor at Side Creek, and I want to know if you've watched Making a Murder and if you think you did it.
I have not watched it. I have so many shows on my DVR right now, so many Real Housewives that need my attention. I have not, but I hear it's so good. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It's like done by like journalists.
Okay, but keep it boring. The keys, Lil. Oh, you're all watching it? I love it.
It's a serial that's done by a journalist.
Uh-huh.
That's my question really is like, you know, do you think that that's kind of the future?
Thanks, Joel. Do you think that's like the future of journalism is that, you know, I mean, because like Sarah Koenig is doing Serial and it's brought up, you know, Adnan Syed's case is being retried now because of what she's discovered. Do you really think that do you think that that's an opportunity for young journalists as well to peruse that area? Do you think that's something that even your news station would move towards?
I don't see us doing that just because we're geared toward more local things. If it happened and you know, I was to come across something through research, you know, that would be a great get. I don't see them doing like longer form pieces like that because we're geared toward the now and right now and what's happening where you live and blah, blah, blah. That would be so much fun to work on. I mean, my dream getting into this was to do longer form pieces, but unfortunately, you know, these days it's like what's happening now in our attention span on Facebook to Twitter and everything else. People can barely concentrate. They want to know, you know, by the time you have a good story, it's like, oh, well, that was yesterday. You know? Okay, I will. You're not the first that has talked to me about that. And I'll let you know if I think. I'll tweet you.
Spare time.
Tweet me, yeah.
Spare time. Oh, my question is, I don't think there's any questions left, but he's on me. Okay, what internship opportunities do you have available in Channel 13 for college students? How many? Are they only in the summer? Are they in the fall, spring?
I believe we have summer, fall, and maybe winter, and I think they have to be for credit. I might be lying, but I think they do. And I can get you that information. What'd you say?
No, right, that's what she said, what about for us?
You can come in and help me any day. But yeah, I think they have to be for college credit, but I can check on that. But we always have interns, yeah. Definitely a lot more in the summer because everybody's off, but yeah.
I guess we'll sneak in one last tweet from Nathan at Side Springs. He asked, which do you prefer, behind the anchor desk or out in the field?
Well, when it's raining, I like being an anchor. It's about to really snow. It's rear end off in DC, and I'm laughing because I worked there for 8 years. I'm like, I just talked to a colleague who works at CBS News, and he called me, and I was like, I answered the phone and just went, because you have to stand out in it. One time it snowed so bad where I lived in Virginia, it was 54 inches. When I walked out of my front door, it was like right here. And you had to be out in it. When things happen, like we don't get snow days. When you guys are off and you have all that cool stuff, I'm so jealous. We're out in there covering it. What was my question?
Oh, do you prefer being behind the desk or out in the field?
So when it's horrible outside, definitely behind the desk. But there's advantages to both, and I think one makes you a better another. So most anchors have been reporters, and if they haven't, I don't think they have such a great background because they're out there in the field, they can appreciate someone else's job, but also be able to think on their feet, you know, and have been there and know what a story takes and what people care about. So I think me reporting I just hit 15 years last month. So the 15 years of reporting and kind of having that experience under my belt, when I'm on the anchor desk and say we have a situation and, you know, it's breaking news, I can use that side of my brain, you know, to kind of formulate what we need to say, the questions we need to ask. So I think it makes you a stronger anchor. But I like doing both, I really do. I like the mix. It doesn't get boring. My attention span's like this, can you tell? I need a mix.
All right, well, everyone, let's give Natasha a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
I did want to remind you, after the stream is over, the video will be posted to YouTube in case you guys need to reference it. And if you are interested in writing a story, I will accept your stories for consideration for publication, and you can get a byline out of it. So any angle that you want to develop about Natasha coming and speaking, that's an opportunity for you guys.
Do I get to approve these?
No.
What?
Sure. And then I wanted to remind you guys, the next press conference will be February 17th at Cypress Ranch High School.
Yay,
They are hosting.
Who's coming to that?
I'm still working on the
You're
speaker.
welcome. He doesn't have anybody. I've asked for JJ Watt.
Don't even start with me.
Not to try to be wonderful, but hey, it's just nice.
We're hoping. One can hope. But I will be staying in touch with you on that. We're trying to nail down the guests. And before we dismiss, I want to have Lexi come up. We have a little gift for Natasha for being our guest. This is a tumbler that has the High School Journalism Network logo on it.
I love it. Thank you so much. That's so nice of you.
So anytime you are on air, you can drink a beverage and think of us.
Yes.
So,
We're going to be looking for it. Thank you guys.
we are going to have everyone come up here. We're going to take a big group photo. But thank you once again for everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah. Can you get everyone in there? 3 years, 8 years.
No, I went home and showered. 2 showers.
Like, you don't have to hide that.
Missy, come up here. Now it's your time.
Yeah.
Another one?
I'll just hold on.
Okay, I think I got it.
Can you send me some? That'd be great.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't just.
Everybody has to take a cupcake. You need. Yeah, I can't even write.
Miss Barrett,
Need another.
I avoided the yellow.
I got in my distance.
Well, I get so now what? I don't want to.
They want JJ Watt.
JJ Watt is mine. I come James Peters. Older.
Yeah.
Well, I was the one